Why are you guys here? We got a job as NPCs for this narrative tutorial. It lets you make missions and dialogues very easily in Unreal Engine 5. Seems pointless if you ask me. Right, Mark? Mark doesn't talk much, but he agrees. Welcome to this quick start tutorial for Narrative 3.2. Today we're going to turn the boring old third-person project into a project with AAA quality dialogue, with different cinematic shots, lip-synced animations, and we'll add a basic mission too. We have to help this NPC turn his light on by finding batteries. The best part is the tutorial is just 25 minutes, and then you'll have a really good grasp of narrative. He's scared of the dark. Yeah, he can't sleep without the light on. I am not. Right, Mark? Ah, Mark, the one time I need you to defend my honor, and you can't say a word. Typical. Look, will you help me find the batteries or not? We'll cover starting quests when you select a certain dialogue option. Yeah, sure, I'll help. Ah, thank you so much. 3 batteries should do it. You'll learn the essentials like having a dialogue change depending on a condition, like whether you have a quest going. So have you found the batteries yet? And changing the player's options depending on conditions too. No, I haven't found them yet. We'll also cover using different camera shots like this dolly zoom shot I'm using here on Rupert. So have you... Yes, I have them right here. You, my friend, are a lifesaver. Finally, no more scary darkness. We'll also look at the basics of scripting the level. Here we'll script that light to turn on when you complete the quest. Thank you once again for your help, friend. Yes, thank you. I'll no longer have to hear Rupert whimpering at night. You will need narrative to do this tutorial. I will leave a link in the description. Also, it's currently featured on the homepage. So excited. If you'd like to purchase narrative, the link is in the description. And if you're on the fence, we do have a full refund policy. For any reason, you can just give me an email and I will refund the product if you're not happy with it. But yeah, once you're ready, click on Open in Launcher to install the plugin. We're going to be using Unreal Engine 5.3 for this tutorial, and so once you've purchased narrative, click on Install the engine, and then select 5.3, and then click Install, and it will install narrative. To get started, you want to download the template project in the description. I've basically just set up a template project with some animations and some metahumans just to save you the half an hour it would take to do all that. So go ahead and download that. If you want the finished project instead of having to follow along, that will also be in the description. Once you've downloaded this, you just want to go ahead and unzip it. Once you've unzipped it, you'll have a U project file. Make sure that you're using Unreal Engine 5.3. That's the same version that I'm using. You have to use that version or later. And go ahead and open the project up. We're here inside of the template project, which is in the description, and it's the exact same as the third person project. The only difference is I made some metahumans and put them in the project so we can skip over that and I don't have to tell you how to add the metahumans because it's a bit annoying to go into all that detail. This is a narrative tutorial, so I want to focus more on the narrative. To make sure narrative is enabled, go to Edit, Plugins, Quests and Dialogue, or you can actually just search up here for narrative if you want, and then just check this box to make sure it's enabled. Make sure you've downloaded the latest version through the launcher 3.2, and we're going to click Restart now to make sure that the changes take effect. We do have to start with some kind of annoying boilerplate code, so we're going to go to Blueprint class and add a player controller. The template project doesn't come with a player controller for some reason, so I'm just going to add one. In the game mode, simply select that, and now to enable narrative, just open the controller up and add a narrative component to the controller. Let's make our very first dialogue. We're going to right click, go to narrative, and we're going to make a dialogue. And we'll call it Nick. So generally you want to call the dialogue the character in it. And we'll open it up. And it's going to add a line for Nick right out of the box. Hey there, I'm Nick. But generally it's a good idea to leave the root node empty. So we're going to do that. And we'll instead add a line for Nick and say, hi, I'm Nick, after the root node. I'll talk later about why you want to leave the root node empty. But under class defaults, we're going to duplicate Nick. And we're going to add one called Mark, and we're going to duplicate Mark, and we're going to add another one called Rupert. So we're going to have 3 speakers, not including the player. So We will compile, save. And so once you add a couple more speakers, you'll see they show up. If I drag out, we can add lines for Mark, for example. And I'm Mark. And then we can add a line for Rupert. And I'm Rupert. Then you can add player responses by just clicking Add Player Response. How are you guys? So I just added a few little bits of text here. Doesn't really matter, just kept it really simple. We're going to compile and save. We're going to open our controller up, and on begin play, if we drag narrative in, we can begin the dialogue we just made. And we'll just select Nick, the one we just made. And we'll also put the UI on the screen. So there's some UI that comes with narrative, and we want to make that appear on the screen. So just follow along here. Add to viewport. Plug in narrative into there. That's it. So that will make the UI show up on the screen. And if you hit play, it'll start the dialogue. Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm Mark. But it's not looking very cinematic. To make it more cinematic and lovely, we're going to go to Class Defaults, and we're going to go to where it says Default Dialogue Shot, and we'll just use a medium close-up shot. That's one of my favorite shots. I think it looks great. I'm also going to turn off the camera shake by just clearing that. We'll compile and save, and we'll hit play. Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm Mark. Now that I have shown you how to use the dialogue editor, your first challenge is to design a dialogue that looks like the one that I'm showing you here. You can pause the video and see the text on the screen here. I've provided all the audio and all the facial animations and everything for all of these lines. So all you have to do is design your dialogue to look the same as this one here. Once you've done it, all of your nodes will still have this little warning saying it needs audio, and I've given you audio with the project. So for each node, you can say it says seems pointless. If you search under sounds for seems pointless, it'll come up. And same for the facial animation. So go through and add the sounds and the animations to all of the lines, and then you'll have exactly what I showed you at the start of the video. So that's literally how easy it is. If I hit play.
Ah, finally! There's a player here. Look, guys. Oh my god, sweet release. We have been standing here for what feels like years.
And yeah, I'm going to show you a really cool technique called backlinking. And so we're going to hold Alt and click to disconnect this. And then I'm going to add an empty line here for Rupert. The reason I'm doing that is so that after Rupert says his final line, we can just simply backlink like that. So you can see after Rupert talks, it will go back here to this empty node. And empty nodes can be used for routing in narrative. They don't actually get played. They're just really nice for routing your wires like this. And so after he finishes talking, you'll get these player options come up on the screen again.
Right.
So you can see after you finish talking, you can see it now loops back, and I can ask more questions, and it actually grays out responses I've selected in the past. Very important side note, narrative needs to know who to aim the camera at. And these metahumans, I've actually already set them up. If you search for tag, I've added Mark as a tag to this guy, I've added Nick as a tag to this guy, and Rupert as a tag to this guy. So that's how narrative finds your characters. It's a process known as linking. So that's how narrative links the characters up to the speakers. There are other ways to link, but that tag way is definitely the easiest. And then the other thing is, the face of my metahumans has the tag face on it, and the body has the tag body on it. And that's just so narrative knows what mesh to play the facial animations and the body animations on. Just like we did before, I need you guys to add some more of these dialogue nodes. So just like you copied this bit last time, you just want to add this little bit on here. And again, just copy what I've got and click on each node and make sure you select the required sound and facial animation for each node. So add this extra little branch on here because we're about to make the quest where he needs you to find the batteries. So we're going to add that into our dialogue. If you want to change the player's name that appears in the dialogue, all you have to do is get the game mode and then change name on the player. By default, it'll show your player's username, but you might want it to just say Ruben or something like that. So you would do that and then self, and then just check that box, and then compile and save. We're also going to make the dialogue start by walking up to the characters instead of automatically. So we're going to delete this begin dialogue part. And in our content folder, we'll make a new blueprints folder. And we'll make a new blueprint actor. We're going to call it a dialogue trigger. It's basically an invisible sphere. When you walk into it, it's going to start the dialogue. So we'll add a sphere collision. We'll make that the root component. I'm going to make it 75. Well, let's make it 100. And we're going to go into the event graph. Inside of actor begin overlap, we're going to get the narrative component from target. So whatever walks into it, this will find the narrative component if it exists on our player. And then we're going to begin dialogue. And we're going to promote the dialogue to a variable so you can set it to whatever you want. And we'll click the little I down here. And that is pretty much it. Under the sphere as well, if we go to collision presets, we're going to use custom and just turn off everything except pawns. So only players will set off the dialogue trigger. And now if I put the dialogue trigger in front of our people here, I'm going to set it to be the Nick dialogue that we've made. And if I hit play, there you go. So that triggers the dialogue. Now we're going to talk a little bit about quests. We'll come into the narrative folder and make a quests folder, and we'll make our very first quest by going to narrative and clicking on the quest option. And I'm going to call this Blinded by the Light. The way quests work is they consist of these grey things, states, and these blue things, which are sort of tasks, things that you have to do in the quest to move from state to state. The quest design is actually very versatile. Let's just make a really simple quest where you have to run over to this red cube, right? Very simple. So the easiest way to do that in narrative is we're going to use the go to location task. This comes with narrative. In fact, all of these tasks you see here come with narrative. We're going to make a custom one later on because you'll always want to make your own tasks. You wouldn't just want to use the ones that come with narrative. And we're going to go to the sphere and I'm going to copy the location of it. And under the go to location, I'm just going to put the location in there. And it's also got this location name. I'm just going to change that to red cube. And narrative even lets you add a waypoint, which I think is quite nice. So we'll add a waypoint. And then what we'll do is inside of our controller, we can grab narrative and begin quest. Just the same way that you begin any dialogue, and we can do blinded by the light. Compile and save, and now it'll tell us, hey, you need to go to the red cube. So that's our blinded by the light quest. If we go to the red cube, you can see quest updated. The quest updated, it made it to this new state. But if you want the quest to succeed when you go to the cube, just delete that and add a succeed the quest. And you can also fail the quest. For example, you could have it so going to the red cube fails a quest and going to the green cube succeeds the quest. Or you have to go to both the green and red cube to complete the quest. Or you can make a quest where you have to go to the green cube, and then once you're at the green cube, you have to go to the red cube, so you have to do it in a certain order. Or even you have to go to the green cube and then the red cube, or you can go to the blue cube to skip to the end of the quest. So you kind of get the point. You can design quests that are non-linear. This whole state machine based system is a very efficient way to design quests. We're going to delete the begin quest because we want the dialogue to begin the quest. So when you say, yeah, sure, I'll help, we want that to start the quest. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the yeah, sure, I'll help, and we're going to add an event. And there's a bunch of events that come with narrative. And of course you can make your own, but we're going to use the begin quest event, and we're going to select the blinded by the light quest. And now if you select this sure, I'll help, it will begin the quest. Next up, I want to talk about conditions. You can see on the left here, Rupert asks, have you found the batteries yet? He's only supposed to say this if you've started the quest, and so you can simply add a condition and then say, is quest in progress? And then go to blinded by the light. And now you can see it says, is quest in progress blinded by the light? And narrative goes from left to right, so it'll try do this first if the quest's in progress, and it'll do that. But if the quest's not in progress, the condition will fail and it will instead go to the next one and it'll play this instead. Because the quest we're making requires you to find some pickups, we need to make some pickups, and we'll make a really simple inventory system, a really watered down one. What we're going to do is duplicate the dialog trigger, and we're going to call this BP underscore pickup, and we'll open it up, and we'll add a static mesh to it, and we'll call that the pickup mesh, and we'll go into the event graph. What we want to do here is basically get our controller. So the easiest way to do that is probably to do cast to pawn and then get the controller, and then we have to cast it to our special controller that we made, the third person controller. And then we want to add the item to the player's inventory, but we haven't added that yet. So let's make the inventory. We're going to open up our third person controller. I'll add a variable. I'll call this inventory items. And under variable type, set it to array, search for pickup, and pickup class reference. So our inventory is just going to be an array of all the pickups we've ever found. So it's a very watered down basic inventory system. We'll add a custom event. I'm going to say add item to inventory. We'll add an input. Again, this needs to be a pickup class reference and just say item. And all we're going to do is drag in our inventory items and add the item to our inventory items. And now we're going to add a event dispatcher, and we'll say on item added, and then copy signature from add item to inventory and just drag that in and hit call. So that allows things to check when an item has been added to the inventory, and we'll plug that in, compile, go back to our pickup, and then add the pickup to the inventory. Then for this item here, just do get self, get class, and then plug that in. So we're basically saying when you find the pickup, add it to the player's inventory. Don't forget, after we add the item to the inventory, we want to delete the pickup from the level because you've taken it. So we'll do destroy actor, that will remove the pickup. And we'll also delete that dialog variable. We don't need that anymore. This is a pickup, and we're good to go. Then what we'll do is we'll just make our first battery pickup. So we'll go and right click on the pickup, create child, and we'll call this pickup underscore battery. And we'll set the pickup mesh to be our battery mesh. So we've made our first pickup, the battery. We'll compile it, and now you can start dropping the battery into the level. You can see here it is here. We can put a few of these in the level. And of course, we've coded our pickups in our inventory system, but in our quest designer, we can't add a task find item because there is none. There's just these ones that come with narrative. So we have to make a find item task. Luckily, it's actually really easy. We'll right click and we will go to narrative, task, and add a task. I'm going to call it BPT underscore find item. And now you'll already see in the quest designer, if you drag out, it actually shows up find item, and we can add find item as a task, but it doesn't do anything because I haven't coded it yet. The other thing is you'll notice if you drag out, it looks really ugly. And the best way to style it is to open it up, go to the class settings, find item, we'll say task that completes when the player finds a given item, and we'll put it in the items category. And now it will be styled really nicely. If you drag out, you can see it's now in its own items category, and if you hover over it, task that completes when the player finds a given item. Very nice. Inside of our task, we're going to add a item to find variable. Make sure that it is of type pickup class reference. And it's really easy. We just have to override begin task. We're going to get our controller. So get owning controller. Cast it to a third person controller. And you remember how we made on item added? If you assign on item added, whenever the player finds an item, we'll check if it's a child of the item to find. So we want to do that. Plug that in. add a branch. And if it's the item to find, add some progress. Now, if we drag out and add a find item task, you can see under the task, you can now set the item the player needs to find to battery, and you can set the required quantity to 3. As the description will say, find 3 batteries. And this should work. Offering to help should start the quest, and our first task will be to find the batteries, and it's now hooked up, so when you find the batteries, it completes that task. So now you just have to bring the batteries back, so let's add that to our quest. Specifically, you need to select this option and give him the batteries. This is so easy to do in narrative. Quests and dialogue work great together. Just copy the ID from this, go into your quest, and after you have found the batteries, we are going to go ahead and do play dialogue node, and then just paste that ID in. And so basically, and we'll put a better description, we'll say bring the batteries back to Rupert. And then that's the quest complete at that point. So there we go. That's our quest done. Now it's time to give everything nicer names. So I'm going to give these some better IDs. I'll say find batteries. And then here I've called this one got batteries. This one I'm going to say bring batteries back. And this one I will say quest complete. So give them all nice IDs, makes it a lot more readable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that got batteries. The reason I'm doing that is because I want you to only be able to say you've got the batteries if you actually have them. And again, we can use conditions to check that really nicely. We'll simply add a condition, and there's one that comes with narrative, is quest at state, and just paste in that got batteries, blinded by the light. And you can see it says, is quest at state got batteries? So that basically means this will only show up if you're at this state in the quest where you have the batteries. And the inverse should be true for this one. You should only be able to say you don't have the batteries if you don't have them. So I'm going to copy the conditions, paste them in here. But on this one, I'm going to check the box that says not. So it basically inverts it. Are we not at the got batteries state? We will compile and save. Alright, your next modification, you have to add 2 more lines over here. Just copy the text and again select the sound and the facial animations. And on this one, I'm going to add another condition here. Is quest succeeded? Blinded by the light. So now we have 3 branches to our dialogue. It's going to check this first. If we've succeeded the quest, he'll thank us once again. If the quest's in progress, it'll do this. And if he's just met us, he'll say all this stuff here. So we can compile and save. And we should actually be able to try this out. And so now we have a pretty good quest. If we accept it, we can find the batteries, we can bring them back. And if we have found them, we'll be able to say yes. If you haven't found them, this option won't come up. It'll say no. And you can see quest succeeded. One last gotcha is if I go to class defaults, my quest name doesn't have spaces in it. I'm just going to add some spaces in there. And there's also this minor issue where if you find a couple of the batteries before you start the quest, watch what happens. It wants us to find 3 batteries, but we've already found 2 of them, and so we can't complete the step. The fix for this is really simple. Inside of our find item task, we're adding progress whenever you find the item. All we have to do is just check if you already have some of the item. And so we're going to grab your items, we're going to do a for each loop, and then we'll literally just copy this little thing here, and we'll just paste it. And we're just doing it for any items that you already have. So that's the modification, and now this should be working perfectly. And this way, if you've already found all of the items or 2 of the items or whatever, it won't matter. They'll already count towards the progress. And so if we do quest, you can see it's already on 2 because it recognizes we've already found 2 batteries and we can find the last one. It also works for 3 as well. Often with quests, you want to script the world to do something. Maybe when you get to the end of the quest, you want to spawn a bunch of enemies in or do something like that. In our case, we want to turn that massive light bulb on. And so let me show you how to script the world. Under example content, blueprints, I am going to put this light bulb in the level. I will make it 7 by 7 by 7. So let me show you just how powerful the quest editor is. This is very cool. We can double click on quest complete and add an event. And we'll say that when quest complete is activated, so once you reach the quest complete, we're going to get all actors of class and then search for our light bulb. And we'll wait 6 seconds before we actually turn it on. We'll do a for each loop here and then toggle light and turn it on. Check this out. When you finish the quest, it'll wait 6 seconds and then the light will turn on. Check it out. If we complete the quest, it'll wait 6 seconds and the light bulb should turn on. Yay, there we go. Very cool. So you can also script the world to change as your quest is completed, and it can be way more than just a light bulb turning on. Maybe you want to spawn a bunch of enemies in that the player needs to kill or something like that. I do want to show you how to make custom camera shots before I leave you here. So we're going to go to the cinematics thing up here, add level sequence, and I'm going to call it ls_complete quest cinematic, and we will save that. And click on this add camera button, and I'm just going to make a little cinematic. So we're going to go over to our good friend Rupert. This is not a sequencer guide, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Just follow what I do. We'll just add a keyframe for the focus distance and the transform, and then we'll move the playhead over here, and then we'll sort of pan up to the light, and I will add a couple of new keyframes, and you can see we've made like a little basic cinematic. To play that in your dialogue is super simple. So I'm going to go to the part where he thanks you, and I'm going to go to shot and use a loose shot. A loose shot is a shot that the user sets themselves. So we'll go into the sequence assets here and select our complete quest cinematic. And so check it out now. When you complete the quest, it will play our lovely cinematic on that
You,
last
my
shot.
friend, are a lifesaver. Finally, no more scary darkness.
How cool is that? You'll probably get this warning here. It's really easy to fix. If you just go into your level sequence, right click on the camera, go to tags and add the tag CineCam to the camera so that narrative can find it. That's just a thing you have to do at the moment. And yeah, that'll get rid of that warning. So some things for you guys to try. I would try making some more pickups. We've made all of the pickup infrastructure and the task and everything. You should be able to make some more pickups. So go ahead and make another child of the pickup class. Make one called pickup cube and get the player to find some cube pickups. Try add some more pickups. The way that we've done this is not super sustainable. You could imagine that if you had a NPC that you had a lot of different conversations with, you know, this would get really messy and complicated. What I'd recommend doing is actually breaking this up into multiple assets, and it's really easy to do. I'll just show you really quickly. So we'll duplicate our Nick dialogue, and I'm going to call this Nick _ greet or something like that. We'll go into the dialogue graph, delete all of this, and just keep this bit here. Now what you want to do is go into the main Nick dialogue, delete all of this, and then add a line for Nick. Under events though, simply just use the begin dialogue event that comes with narrative, and then play Nick greet. And you can see this really cleans up the dialogue, and so you can spread the dialogue across multiple different assets now. Really useful for NPCs that you might have like hundreds of different dialogue lines with. That's the tutorial. Hope you guys enjoy the lovely new updates in Narrative 3.2. The plugin is getting amazing at this point. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. And I can't wait to see you in the Discord. The link to the Narrative Discord will be below, where you can get all the help that you need with the plugin. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.